Hey guys, welcome to another session of RBTL, or Reading Between the Lines. So for this edition, we're going to be covering the balance adjustment preview notice for the November 26th. So it's for November 26th. In the last version, we where I think it was like more like Fire Ravi, Emma Araminta, I was saying that it seemed that they're buffing a lot of more control units, like so crowd control heroes, that it could be one of the steps they're taking in order to balance out the sort of like predominant knight meta. Because at the end of the day, like if you're Ruel, if you're, Last Rider Crow, has like 170 effect resist, like are you still going to compete with, debuffers of like 200 effectiveness? Most likely not. I mean, all you have left is like a Momo counter draft, a Champion Zerato counter draft, maybe even a Tywin. But if they pre-ban one of those, it's pretty scary. You'd have to either like outspeed them with cleave, or but regardless, I saw that going in last edition, and this one kind of more solidifies my thought of doing it, like of them balancing heroes. It solidifies the idea that they're probably using this to counter. Now we do have an announcement of the new gear sets and the hunts coming as well, although those are in preview, and those are also tentative in terms of like how the sets work. Like, does the defense penetration set stack? It's being at a two-piece set, stuff like that. They're working it out. Smilegate is. So until we see that, although I know it will affect the meta, until we see that like fully in the light, we won't be able to judge how much that affects. But 100% that their hero adjustments have seen some like great success in the past couple editions. You see people bring out new heroes and to successful degrees. So I, after reading everything here, there's like no doubt that this batch is pretty hype, I have to say myself. First things first, Sage, Baal and Sezan. So I'm out Baal. This one's hilarious because if you guys follow me on YouTube, I just recently pulled another one. While being salty that I have 3 of him, I'm not so salty anymore after seeing this. Now, that being said, it's not saying that he's gonna be like super OP. I still think that compared to what he was before the nerf, the original nerf, this is still not as good. Although I think they're not bringing him back to his old self, but they're making him a bit different, which I'm totally okay with it. So first things first is Evil Spirit's Call. This is the S1. The additional is when a target is asleep after the attack, increases combat readiness by 20%. This reading does read just like Tenebria's, so I do think that if you have a Sierra Ren, so for example you don't proc the 75, but your Sierra Ren procs asleep, you still get it. Since even though the artifact proc order does happen after the attack, like the proc of your initial sleep, it still counts, so technically it works. The skill does not trigger a dual attack. It has always been the same from before, but now with the 20% combat readiness boost, which Fire Tenebria has a 50% if the enemy is asleep on the S1. It's not the same amount, but I think this will be really good. People already know that Fire Tenebria really turn cycles really quick, especially if you hit those sleeps. Oh man, she's really disgusting to deal with. If you guys watch my Guild War videos, probably most of my PvP, at least on video regularly, is gonna be in Guild War. If you see me use her, she's just like controls. So I think instead of him as like the Omega, like Despeller, like a Bassar, like a Broman, he's gonna remain the way he was before, after the nerf, but with this kind of like addition to his skill set, sets him apart from the other first turn AoE Despellers. So Cloud of Ruin after, so we have 100% chance to dispel 1 buff, so that is the problem there. But 85% chance to put him to sleep. I think the only way out of this one would be like if you're gonna draft him, let's talk in RTA terms, because RTA really is the end game PvP at the moment, and the PvP that people care about the most. It is also the PvP that Smilegate is tuning these heroes for. So realistically, I think if you're going for this, you ban the FCC, either pre-ban or a complete ban. And if people have other sorts of barrier, it's not going to be an AoE unless they do a buff. So generally speaking, all the circumstances I can think of, this is still very usable. It's just like, why not use a Broman? I think that's the main thing. So sleep and silence both have their own benefits, but like I said, Broman doesn't have something like this, right? And of course he does have an S3 that is also improved as well. So 5% extra proc rate on the sleep chance, it's usable. And the combat range is 20%, whereas it used to be 25%, if you believe that. 25% with the skill cooldown being lower, so he could pretty much always have this cooldown, yeah, when the skill is available. Anyways, it's still okay. It's okay. The S3 used to be just damage dealt proportionally to caster's lost health. It never really did much damage. I would have to say that for this to matter, really, is the penetrate defense has to be 100% defense penetration or near it, something like a 70%. Not quite sure if it actually says it here, but this because I mean there's a couple weeks left until this patch is actually here. No, it doesn't say it exactly. Couple weeks, so I think they're gonna fine tune it. In my opinion, though, it's not terrible to have it at 100%. Knowing that his S1 is not as his S1 is not as good as Tenebria's. His S3 is not as good as like something like S2 rather. This is the S2. Is not as good as like something like Roman's S3, Broman's S3. Man, I can't speak today. But so like for everything to like really matter, especially like if you have him in a control comp, you're going to be pairing him up with another controller. I can't really foresee him being like a solo controller, but then you having all these knights, because you have to prevent them from having immunity buffs, prevent them from having cleansers and stuff like that. So your opponents, that is. So I do feel that you will have to draft another sort of control with him. Either that's another strip, something like a Broman, but I think you have to. So if this is a 100% defense penetration, it's still proportional to his lost health. So at a 100%, it's not even that wild. It would just be like right, and cannot trigger a critical hit. This will be useful in RTA because true HP damage or defense penetration at 100% right now is honestly one of the strongest skill sets for RTA. So just speculation. I don't think there's any reason for them to go lower than 100, but it has to be 70 or higher. It can't be like 50%. He needs too many stats for him to have like a lot of health. Well, proportional to his lost health is percentage, but for him to not get nuked out in one turn for this skill to even matter, this has to be 100%. Well, when enemy is defeated, silences all remaining enemies for one turn. That's very nice. It's very nice to have. That's just kind of like Assassin Kali's execution skill. So once you kill on the S3, you silence the remaining enemies. Very nice to have. But yes, it has to be defense penetration of 100% in my opinion. Skill cooldown is all skills decreased by 2 turns. That's very nice. It just sets him. It just like resets him pretty much. A very nice addition to it. I think that it's going to be very powerful. Although I'm not gonna like overhype and say that, oh my goodness, this is broken. I don't think so. It just benefits both skills. So regardless, very, very nice. I was reading the before version, the awakened version is the same, except this is recovering the health. LQC, so LQC, interesting one as well. Although like I feel like there's not much wrong with her entire kit, Everything is like very solid. I did see her kind of just drift away from the meta against being single target damage while doing a lot of damage. It was a bit lackluster for some reason. People still drafted her to a successful degree, so I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video and you're one of the people that's like, wait, LQC is OP already, like why does she need a buff? And I think it's just because like being a single target damage, going against a full knight team with a Ruel on the opponent's team, she still turn cycles too slow in order to matter. Now though, this is a bit more interesting. Damage dealt is increased with the S1. That's a big one. She really only has 2 attacking skills, and that S1, although already hits pretty hard, I think is at a 1x mod. If they jack it up to like a 1.2 times or something like that, yeah, 100%, that's competitive, very competitive S1. If you get a dual attack in it and whatever, and she gets the immunity still, very, very nice. The S3 is buffed. They didn't buff the S2. I think the S2 is pretty good. Damage reduction AoE, damage reduction herself on a greater percentage, and she has a CR boost. So I think the passive not being touched is totally right. We'll read the awakened version. So when a target is a dark elemental hero, increase the damage dealt and inflicts additional damage to all enemies except for the target proportion of the caster's attack. So what I would imagine, it would be like a Rengar specialty drink type of proc, or maybe Uberi's Tooth type of proc, where you do the damage on the dark elemental, a single target, and then it inflicts the additional damage on everyone else, like a splash damage. So it will in animation wise, it'll probably look kind of like Sez S3, Uberi's Tooth, Rengar specialty drink, you know, that extra number hop that comes at the end of it, but it doesn't affect the target itself. What's interesting is that no, never mind. I wasn't thinking much. But she needs an attack buffer though. Basically, no matter what, she would need an attack buffer. I think in terms of her build, I don't think she's gonna differ much from what she is already at. So how people build her right now, it won't differ much. But I think more than ever, she needs an attack buffer. So yeah, probably speed set, immunity set. Some people run her on a counter, actually pretty good, but you need her to be tanky. Again, you need her to survive, but she also needs to have high attack. So in proportion now, I guess the only difference would be the stats, the allocation of the stats. You want more rolls into attack than you wanted in crit damage. Just have that balance of attack times crit damage and your number, and you'll be better off with higher attack. You shift the crit damage into higher attack. Yeah, without benefit, of course. I don't think that needs to be explained. You guys are really smart anyways watching this video. Cerise buff. Oh, this one's a doozy. This one's pretty OP. So I mean, next is Cerise and Landy. So before I even go into this, first things first is that they're willing to buff limited heroes now, and both of these heroes buffed are extremely good. This will definitely shift my mind and 100% solidify to this, that if you're a free-to-play player, or you're a player that has limited resources, let's say you're like a dolphin and you spend but you want to be competitive, most of your resources, in my opinion, should be spent into hunts and stuff like that. Get gear for your heroes, but save your covenant bookmarks for limited heroes, unless there is like a Lilius or a Lencius sort of RGB hero, non-limited. But again, you need to listen to like content creators. If you guys watch me, you listen to my opinions on like whether or not to pull for a hero. You need to follow up. Like you need to, I think really you need to make sure you have roles covered. Anyways, I plan to make a video series for mid-game players that are kind of struggling right now to push the end game. I'm getting a lot of messages via YouTube comments, Discord DMs, on stream chat even, that Jay, I'm kind of stuck, I don't know where to go. So I'm planning to make a series on it, and one of the things I will touch upon, one of the subjects, is where to spend your resources, because I see a lot of a lot of problems, people pulling on every banner, but then not leaving themselves with enough resources to farm gear. This being said, limited hero is now getting buffs, and with buffs like this, you have to save your bookmarks for limited heroes, at least able to get a pity. You have to do it. Absolutely. Last week they gave Luna her exclusive equipment. That was the first limited hero to get exclusive equipment. Now, while Smilegate seems to be pretty consistent in returning the limited heroes, you still are gonna be like waiting like maybe a year for that limited hero to come back. So you're gonna be missing out if you don't pull them. And also limited artifacts now more than ever. I mean, we have a limited artifact buff I'm gonna cover in a bit, but oh dude, like it would be really bad now if you miss limited heroes. I am glad that I stuck to that rule, although when Cerise and Landy both came out, I felt that they had problems, and I'm like, no, you don't need them, and you still don't, arguably you still don't need them, but I was like, oh, you don't need them, so you don't need to pull for it, but I will pull for it. That's why I said I will pull for it, because it's a limited hero. Yeah, you don't want to miss out. And now more than ever, that statement stands. So anyways, let's go to this first. So the Mystical Arrow S1 triggers a dual attack from random ally when Froststorm is on cooldown. Extremely crazy. People already giving her the Rosa artifact in order to proc a dual attack. If she's on a Guild War defense team, because of the low number of potential dual attacks, this is gonna be an insane buff, especially when it's on cooldown. So on AI driven Cerise, which, you know, Cerise defenses have been in defense since the beginning of her banner, it's just that if you have the gear for it, that is, this is going to be so much better. This is crazy, man. I don't, you guys know my video style. I don't usually overhype things when I don't think it's necessary. When I want to think critically, I don't overhype things. I think this is OP. Alright, that's pretty freaking OP. Luminous Explosion after, so this is the S2, making them unable to be buffed for 2 turns. 2 turn unbuffable. Again, very, very usable. AI driven defense. This is going to be useful for offense. I mean, this is 2. Don't get me wrong, this is 2. RTA wise, I think she's going to be more drafted now, especially if you got the gear for it again. Unable to be buffed, but they increase the combat range by 50% as normal, and then you get the stun for 1 turn. Super, super solid. That can help like whittle down any hero that is benefiting from like an FCC passive or something like that. Any sort of thing that has like a passive buff, super nice. Because the passive buffs are usually like you if you do this on versus like a cleanser, you know that they're gonna cleanse the skill, right? But if there's like a turn where a buff is going on passively, either from an artifact, so let's say for example the what's the one called, Rise of Monarch, I think that's it, the one with the barrier after the knight's turn or whatever on the lowest health, or FCC barrier or stuff like that. Any sort of passive buff, this is very, very good against it. And of course, if they don't bring a cleanser, then oof, 2 turn unbuffable, very solid. Froststorm after, so well, let's take a look at the Awakened one. Attacks with an advantageous element. That means she cannot miss. In the past, in Guild War defense especially, when I see Cerise defense and they don't have really fast follow-up, I'm just like, lol, like that's like Bazaar counter right away. Now I'm saying that like even with an advantageous element here, it's still not gonna like, you know, stop a Bazaar from countering a Cerise defense team, unless your Cerise defense team has already a fire hero or someone that already counters Bazaar. It's still not gonna stop him, because a slow or a speed down usually wouldn't stop a Bazaar from getting a turn and then fully push back, you know, strip Cerise's invincibility buff and stuff like that. But still very good, because now in RTA when you draft her, you don't need to worry about that advantageous element, right? You don't really need to worry about like missing the strip, which can be vital for your attack. So Outside of them having maybe Moonlight Dreamblade or some kind of evasion passive, it's still going to be super good, right? So everything else remains the same: invincibility for 1 turn, decreased speed, and restrict for 2 turns. But the damage on this skill will also be increased. That is an interesting thing that Smilegate knows. I mean, it was already a really high mod. We kind of joked about it as like, oh, Cleave Cerise. It could be thing like if you have a full crit build with like high enough crit damage, but you have the resist. Oh, sorry, you have the effectiveness, you have the speed. You know, just lucky that you get like a really good crit rate based neck or something like that. I mean, she's gonna be good. Most likely people are gonna build Cerise the same way they build Athletica, which is gonna have some crit rate for that double pick CDOM cleave, right? Potentially. So if this damage is dealt, that is increased, it's gonna help. Every single bit of damage, of course, helps. So I think it's a nice little addition. I'm not gonna say too much about it unless like that damage is insanely crazy, like something that I would never guess. Landy, recent limited hero. If you missed this one, definitely really good now. So my problem with Landy before was that, yeah, she technically does more damage over time if the opponents are buffed. But I was saying that, you know, through anti-crit buff, through barrier, through defense buff, she's not gonna be that good. Now, I know people are saying that, Jagan, you know, I've seen her use an RTA. She's fantastic. Or she got some kills. Yeah, I'm not saying that she won't. I never said that she wouldn't. But obviously, Smilegate agreed in terms of like how they designed it. It wasn't the way that they wanted. Exactly what I said. I said that she either needed to be totally reworked, that opponents don't have buffs. Like she would be good without them having buffs. So that means you can run a strip into a defense break, into an attack buff, into a AoE, i.e. Landy. Or they penetrate defense, and bingo, Smilegate, right on the money there. Now she's usable. Now she's going to be really annoying to deal with. She was already really good, right? She's already pretty good, but again, depending on the buffs that you bring into it, you can really make her look really bad. Now this is going to be insane. First things first, we get to the S1. So combat readiness is increased by 15%, and effect is double when the enemy is buffed, but now it's the combat readiness and fighting spirit gained is double when the enemy is buffed. Damage on this skill will also be increased. This is crazy because the S1 already does a really good amount of damage, really good chunk of damage, and if this is increased even by 10%, we're talking about like a really strong S1 skill. With everything that she has, if you gain fighting spirit with the S1 and have 30% combat readiness, assuming they're buffed, of course, this is a very crazy skill. I don't even know if the damage increase was actually needed. I think the damage increase, even like I said, even if it's 10%, is already bonkers for what she has to offer now. I'm actually pretty surprised. A change on the attack stack as well. Before it used to be 10% 5 times, so 50% attack buff. Now it's 20% 3 times. So one, quicker stacks, and a maximum higher maximum stack, so 60% now. At the start turn, getting 10 flying spirits, so it's the same as before. Insane. That's just really disgusting. Fires at all enemies, all allies, increase speed for 2 turns, and so instead of the caster only, now it's all allies. So not only is she speed buffer, AoE buffer, which I did say before, one of her flaws is that maybe she doesn't support enough. And I was saying that, like, my problem with Landy before this buff, and saying that why she didn't deserve a limited slot, is just because, like, in an RTA draft, if you're gonna draft her, your opponent most likely has drafted a defense buff either through Adventurer Roz, Crow, Alencia. You might have a DN there, you might have a Shu on the other team, you have a anti-crit buff, and you have a barrier buffer. Now with Last Rider Crow and FCC, of course, still in the meta. That's just gonna be a lot of stuff for Landy to go through. And I was saying that the traditional way of dealing damage is strip the buffs, even apply a defense break if you can, have an attack buff, and then you go ham, either single target or AoE or something like that. We all know that the scary thing about not having a defense buff, so getting stripped, we all know how scary it is to get a defense break. It's almost instant delete most of the time. So the very fact that she didn't have those things, I was saying that she's going to struggle through those buffs: barrier, anti-crit, and defense buff. Now though, she can penetrate the target's defense by 50%. We're talking an AoE skill that penetrates target by 50%. Already have like decently high mods. So this is not like a Cowrick S3, because Landy will most likely still be able to be built for more damage than how Cowrick is used. But yeah, it's a pretty crazy buff. That's all I have to say here. So yeah, AoE speed buff, CR boost, and then consumes all and penetrate defense for 50%. We do have to keep in mind that it is when the fighting spirit's full before you can penetrate the defense by 50%. But still, regardless, it's still crazy. So increased damage dealt was the Soulburn before. Now it grants an extra turn. Granting an extra turn means that the I mean, you can get more turns out of it, you get more damage out of it, but although it's 20 souls, I think that probably is enough. The increased damage dealt here will not supersede the 50% defense penetration, again, in terms of how RTA meta is right now, which is high defense heroes, you know, high HP, high defense heroes. Trigger does not, yeah, sorry, this is the awakened portion, I should have just read that. So that's the same. Very powerful buff. Yeah, man, going forward, I really do think that the lemon heroes are must pulls, like no question asked. Like right now I'm just more curious that Luna got an EE, but why isn't she buffed yet? Her EEs are not buffs, that's for sure. Not like this, right? Not Landy, not Cerise. It's not a buff. It's not even close. Maya, so attacks with the shield, 100% chance to stun for 1 turn before decreasing combat range by 30%. Very good upgrade for Fire Maya. I know that some people already built Fire Maya, but I think now she's gonna be a worthy knight to build, like an actual worthy knight to build. 4 turn cooldown now for morale boost, and a 75% chance to provoke all enemies, 100% chance to decrease attack for 2 turns, and then increase the defense for 2 turns. Very solid to have as a knight. The AoE provoke had a higher proc rate and decreased attack hit down for 2 turns. Super strong. Morale boost, 75% chance to provoke all, oh sorry, yeah, so this is the same. Attack for 2 turns. Yeah, very solid. Cooldowns 4. Very solid knight. She's already decent. And again, back to the controls again. The controller, so we got Sage Baal, we have Cerise, I would consider her a controller, and then we have Pro Horizon, Dollmaker Pro Horizon upgraded. Very quick, actually pretty drastic how quick they did this one. Like the Inquisitor or specialty changes, the Butcher, he didn't get a buff until like almost half a year later, or maybe almost a year. But Dollmaker Pro Horizon is one of the newest ones, so it's really clear that they want to push more controllers, and I think they're right in terms of, like I said, I think crowd control might be a decent way to counter the knight meta. Like it's kind of like rock paper scissors at this point. I feel it's like cleave teams or speed cleave teams are good against crowd control, because unless your crowd control heroes are really fast, like, you know, 290 speed Bassars and stuff like that. But crowd control really takes on knights. You know, speed cleave have problem taking out knights sometimes. Again, it's all dependent on your gear and also the player's ability to, you know, strategize in the pick and ban phase. Dollmaker Pro Horizon now has an increased combat readiness of the cast by 10% per sleep debuff inflicted, so maximum up to 4, so almost 40%. You can say 40% CR boost. It's close to 10 Abria's S1. But that's very crazy that this is attacking all enemies. Endless Nightmare. After yes, 20 souls is ignore effect resistance. That's insanely good. I think Dollmaker Pro Horizon right now will be one of the must build heroes. I'm actually on the way of building her right now as well, before the buff. So I mean, with the buff, I'm just like, okay, now, you know, easy 6-star, right? Easy peasy. When enemy is asleep, decreases defense for 2 turns, deals additional damage, the equivalent of 15% of the target's max health. This after the awakening is 30% of the target's max health, whereas originally did damage dealt equivalent to 30% of max health, right? So the target's max health, this is really good at like taking out like high HP heroes. Very, very strong. I've seen it in action. That is the only reason why I wanted to build her as well. You can build a high crit damage, and then because of the sleep, you don't need that much crit rate, high effectiveness kind of build. 80% chance to decrease speed of the enemy for 2 turns when using hypnosis, and before it was only 50%. So all around very, very powerful crowd control hero, with now more effectiveness, no pun intended, more effectiveness in the meta. Definitely think that she's worth building. Artifact adjustments, Guiding Light being a limited artifact again. Ooh, oh boy, that's if you missed out on it, this is a very, very good one. Start of the battle, it grants stealth for 1 turn. That's 100% guaranteed. Very, very good artifact now for maybe even Guild War. If you have a slowish ranger or something like that. Let's say if they have like a really fast starter, like maybe an Assassin Sid or something like that. Even if your ranger is really fast, but you're like, you know, not as fast as an Assassin Sid, you can like bait him with like a Kairon and have another stealth hero on the first turn, and then Assassin Sid really won't do much. Like strategies like that, this is invaluable update. Everything else is the same. Yeah, a stealth granted at the end of the caster's turn, so everything else is the same, except this, the 100% guaranteed at the start of battle is start. So I think for AI driven fights, it's way better. I think even in RTA, it can be really good. It can be surprising, I think. So if people contend for speed, let's say, again, in that example, let's say you draft an Athletica, your opponent knows that your Athletica is not as fast as Assassin Sid, you might have Guiding Light on, is one of the most popular ones with Athletica anyway, and then he won't be able to nuke her out on the first turn, right? So, like, you know, now the question would be, like, if anybody has a fast ranger, are they on Guiding Light, right? Unless you have an AoE counter to it. Like, do they have Guiding Light? And if they draft a Cerise and Athletic, and it's like, oh, which one has Guiding Light? Or do they both have Guiding Light? If both of them have it, man, ooh, disgusting. Bastion of Pelusia as well. Immunity for 1 turn, very, very nice to have. This now lowers the requirements needed for, let's say, a J Kisei cleave. So I mean, one of the things I use Bastion for myself is offensive fights where, you know, Oxalot's J Kisei cleaving or something like that, and running Eaton 32,000 HP. My Bastion is not even maxed, and it gives her like a 6k barrier or something like that, something disgusting. So ML cans can't go into and kill her. But if you don't have the gear to give her like an immunity with high damage, maybe this is the alternative for you, right? You could go pure damage, only focus on that, if that's all you're using this artifact for. That's what I'm saying. But very nice to have. Guild War defense, if you have Bastion, you need an immunity. Let's say you big brain, where like you have to have immune on this hero, but you don't have really good immunity DPS gear. This might be beneficial for that. So you can just go without the immunity. Very, very nice. All this is very crazy. Dux Noctis as well. I'm building Pavel. I'll have a Pavel showcase video in the near future. I was going between this artifact and Portrait. PvE wise, when I'm farming with Pavel, because I'm farming friendship, I swap him onto Dux Noctis, because if you're like, let's say if I'm hunting Azimanic with him or something like that, like this is better than Portrait, because most of the fight, the harder part of the fight is after the 50% HP portion. So this has only up to 24 times stack or attack max. This is 8 times stack, so you get it quicker, and it's up to 32% now. So although I won't say that this would be a very, very crazy like artifact overall, it's just much more usable, especially with like an Athletica sort of cleave. So because it only stacks up to 8 times, but you already have 4 critical hits, assuming your Athletica crits. You already have 4 critical hits, so that's already half of that. You already almost max. So by the time Pavel, if you use it on Pavel, you might be using it on someone else. By the time your Pavel goes, you're almost at 100%, or you're almost at max attack stack. Very nice. Andre's crossbow, cool. Extra soul taken out, more usable. And then Silver Rain, I think this one will. You could definitely consider this to be a decent artifact if you use any kind of Judith CR boost, even Ruzid. Ruzid would be better because you have a paired speed buff, but Judith is just as good because she has higher base speed and a higher CR boost. 100% chance to increase the attack of the ally, except the caster with the highest attack now. So it used to be a random ally. I was saying in Guild War fights this might be usable because you only have, 2 possibilities of someone getting the attack, but now there's no RNG involved, so very nice, very good. I do have a Silver Ring maxed. I haven't had to use it because I don't use a Thief CR booster as much as I previously did in the past, like long ago. But for people who do use like Judith Cleave or Ruzid and Judith Cleave or something like that, this would be very, very nice to have. Regardless, I think this batch is way more insane in terms of all heroes than the previous one with Fire Ravi, Ice Kisei, ML Araminta. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think about this patch, man? Like, is it, are you gonna dust off some of these old toys? Like, I think for myself, like ML Baal, I might look into him. LQC, Cerise, Landy. I think I'm gonna prioritize Landy mainly in the next coming while. But anyways, yeah, drop your comments in below. I love to read it. You know, guys, that I always read your comments. But anyways, I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.